So welcome everybody. Welcome to our, it's a little bit of a workshop webinar today on how to lead a high converting sales team. And we have a lot of experts on the webinar today. A lot of you have really great experience that I'm sure I will learn from. And so it'd be wonderful if you contribute because together we're stronger, right? And I think that's very much one of the ethos of the IACC community in sharing. It always helps. So feel free. I'd love to hear from you and your opinion and your experience and your successes in leading your sales teams. But what I want to share with you is a few tips really on what I've picked up from training in this area and from working with teams all over the world in how to win a lot more business. And very much an ethos that I share and positioning a mindset that I help teams to develop is leadership. Because sales is all about leadership, and it's about having a team who are comfortable and skilled to gently lead the client to buy and to want to buy. And I think that's a strong distinction there, to help the client to make the right decision and to want to work with your team. So my promise today is that it will be very practical. Everything that I share is purely from experience, from my days in hotels, from my days when I was on the buying side of the business, when I was an agent. I want very much to share that with you. And also, I promise to give you a different lens and perhaps a few ideas. And the lens that I share is how the client thinks and how the client buys. And that's where I spend a lot of my time when I work with teams, is to really get them to stop thinking like a salesperson and step into the head and the mind of the client, and of course be more relevant to the client. So I want to share one thing that will make a difference to your day every day, and a few of the internal factors that I see affecting sales teams' productivity and their conversion rates, and of course the external factors that have an impact and a big impact on sales teams and their win rates. So I'd like you to take some notes, folks, if you could today, because there's a link between the brain and our hand, and it will help you retain and recall and find the information when you really need it. So for the moment, let me take you back to July last year, when my friend Andy he just got home from work, and he was sitting on the couch and his pager went off, and he is a volunteer for the lifeguard, and he immediately sprung into action, and within about 20 minutes or so, he was leading his team out to sea. 2 canoeists had been reported missing. They hadn't come home as expected, and it was dusk. So it was starting to get dark, so it was really critical that they find them pretty quickly. So they were, going in a direction that they thought they might be in, and within a few minutes, they found the first canoeist, and he was fairly shocked. He was okay, but he was very concerned for his friend, who last time he saw him was in the water. So they needed to really find this person. And they were going around and around, and they had a few false alarms. Debris can look like somebody in the water, or a seal, that type of thing. And they were in the direction where his friend had last seen him. And Andy knew that it was critical. He had a choice to make. He could turn, make sure he got his team home safely, and call out the helicopter, or he could do one more thing. And this is what he did. He turned off the engines and they listened. And after about 30 seconds, they heard a faint whistle, and they went in that direction, and that was their canoeist. So they secured him, got him into the boat, and everybody got home safely. And the point here really is how often do you turn off the noise? And today, if you can turn off your noise in your world and just really focus in here, because when we're trying to do too many things, definitely something doesn't get done, something gets lost. But also, sometimes we really need to switch off the noise so that your own voice can be heard and that you can hear your ideas and let them come to the surface. And also, so that how are we doing this for our team? And are we distracting them? Is there too much going on in the office that they're losing business because they're losing focus and losing connection with their clients and really not focused in and listening to what the client's needs are? So with reference to yourself and your leadership, we're just going to spend a few minutes on doing some reflection. And I'd like you to take a look and to answer this for yourself. What level of your capacity of leadership are you using at the moment? Now, some of you might have attended the workshop. This workshop that we did last year was last March. And I'm wondering, has that changed in the last year? I'm sure it has. But you know, we have a few new people also, right? Kate, John, you're very, very, very welcome. And there's a few of our regulars here, which is great to see. Sue and Nancy and Katie and Babette from Spain, hello to you. I haven't met you since, I think it was Barcelona. But what level of your capacity of leadership are you using at the moment? So perhaps give yourself a, you know, percentage point there out of 100. Okay. The point here that I'd like to really focus in on, folks, is you. Okay, because you are one of the most important people in this conversation. And what are you doing every day to help ensure that you are at your best performance and that you are able to give so much, which of, you know, is demanded of you really throughout the day? And a lot of the time we neglect ourselves and we don't do what we really need to do to ensure that we're at our fittest, at our best, mentally and physically. And really what it's about is leading yourself so that you are able to lead your business, and that in turn is leading your future and carving that out. And this is something I've done a lot of work on myself in the last year, and there's a number of different people that I'm reading around. John Maxwell, I'm really enjoying his books at the moment, but it all starts with me. And yes, I work for myself, I need to lead my business, but you know, in your role, it is the equivalent of your business. This is what you have responsibility for. This is where your reputation, your future is focused on. And how are we really leading ourselves? Because our team pick up so much from that. And change, you know, it will not come if we wait for some other person or some other thing. We're the ones that we've been waiting for, and we are the change that we seek. So today I'd like to look at that and take that reflection as we're going into a few other points. And, you know, when you think about it, you know, we're all such travelers, and how often have we heard this message? If in case of an emergency on the airplane, you put on your own gas mask or your own oxygen mask first, right? So that you're strong and able to help the other person. So let's take that time. Let's take that time for ourselves and have a little fun. What do we see? What do you see here in this picture, guys? Just type it in the chat box there. What do you see? A dog. Okay. A person-dog hybrid. Okay. We're getting very specific now. Yes, some people have seen a dog. Some people see a cat. A person in a trolley. Okay, I like it. I like it. A cow. Does anybody get a cow? Some people see a cow. Or a man in a bathtub. A man in a bathtub or a woman in a bathtub, of course. Okay. So every 5-year-old draws, and you were once 5. So what I'd like you to do is draw just for the next few minutes, because when we draw, we are tapping into a part of the brain that doesn't get used every day. It used to when we were 5, but no longer does. So it doesn't matter what your drawing looks like. When you were 5, you thought you were an amazing drawer, right? So for the moment, let's just draw this, okay, and just get it out that way. And I'd like you to draw how you would feel if you can get your team working as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Draw how you would feel if you can get your team working as efficiently and effectively as possible. If anybody wants to take a picture of their drawing afterwards and send that to me, you'd be most welcome. So let me know when you have that done. Kate, are you any good at drawing? You drawing away there?
I'm not the best drawer, but I'm having a go.
Okay. Okay, we've a few done. I'll give you another minute. Could be a work of art you're doing, I'm not sure. Would anybody like to share what they have drawn? Carla, you said you're finished. What did you draw? A butterfly. Oh, I love it. The freedom of a butterfly, right? Was that the feeling behind it? I like it. You know, I've done this workshop a few times and nobody has done a butterfly before. Excellent. Love that. Definitely send me that drawing. Anybody else want to share what they have drawn? John, you're finished as well? Jumping for joy. Woohoo! Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. And it's about priming the brain and keeping it primed to what that goal is, because that helps the brain to really rewire itself and get us there. So let's look at a few other tips, because this helps to keep us focused and going in the direction that we need to be, because a lot of things are going to put us off that direction, right? But what is the needle that you really need to move in your business to help you to feel like that butterfly or jumping for joy? What is that needle in your business? And let's try it. Let me help you to try and move that or come up perhaps with that one thing. And a good way to do that might be to look at this. What's a bad day for you? What does a bad day look like for you? If you just write a few thoughts on that. Whatever comes to mind, just let it out. And if anybody wants to share those things, let me know. Okay, is everybody good with that? You got a few things written down? Now let's try and narrow this down. Narrow this list down to 3 things. What would be the really big things that can just send the day in the wrong direction? Because it's when we're aware of these things, some of these things can be triggers. And when we're aware of these things, it can help us to do something about it. And an interesting thing to do in some of your sales meeting might be to ask your team this. What's a bad day for them? And what are the triggers? What can really send them off course? If anybody wants to share those 3 things, feel free. I did this workshop in Germany last month, and somebody said to me when their boss starts WhatsApping them and texting them at 6:30 in the morning about operational things that have gone wrong. You know, that definitely is, I would say, a very bad start to the day when you're still in the bed or en route and you're being pulled in. So yes, absolutely. When you might find out that a piece of business didn't confirm that it went to the competitors. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, missed opportunities, and that absolutely can send you in the wrong direction. It's about how quick, I suppose, is it that we can bounce back from that type of thing, and how resilience have we built in. So if we can narrow those 3 things then down to one thing, what would be one thing that you can focus in on to fix? And then I'll share something with you that a lot of directors and leaders of teams would say to me. Unhappy client as well, yeah, or the team somehow their positivity levels have gone down. Absolutely, good stuff, John. Okay, so if we can narrow that down to one thing then, folks. So, what is it then that's going to make the biggest impact? And where can we be directing our energy and our needle to make sure that we're coming back to this, that we're constantly focused on this? And conversion and win rates are a really big one that come up with people in your roles. And when I work with teams, or when I start out, a number of people might come up with this and say, look, I just really need more leads. And, that it's a numbers game, and our conversion rate is fixed at 10, 15, 20%, whatever that might be. But if we increase the number of leads, then that is going to help our win rate. And I don't agree. There is an influx of leads in the marketplace right now. A number of you are operating in locations where people are overwhelmed with leads, and with the advent of Cvent and technology that makes it very easy for clients to just click and send a lead to 10, 20, 50 different venues, that has an impact on your team. So when we focus in on what are the steps that we're taking to make sure that we're not losing out on the leads that are yours to convert, and what are we doing to filter the ones that are not your leads, and make sure that we're attracting more of the right kind of leads, those are the activities that are going to have an effect on your conversion rate. Because generating more leads is not the quickest route to profitability. It's probably creating overwhelm and causing frustration, and people to just go into autopilot and freeze almost. We stop making right decisions when this kind of thing happens. And these are the areas where I see growth and profitability opportunities in our industry. But getting the strategy and the technique right for the sales team. And of course, for them to be part of that and feel that they are part of that decision-making process. As directors, I feel it's a very important role to create these power sales tools, as I call it. And these are the tools that your clients use every day to help them make a decision whether to book your venue or not. Relationships that are of value, and are our team creating those kind of relationships, not relationships that means that I can reduce the rate and help you in that way. It's really relationships that your clients should be saying about your team, I cannot run as good an event, as successful an event, without the expertise of your team. Ideally, your clients need to be able to say that, and that's very much an IAC way, right? Because you're experts in what you do. And your positioning of yourself and your team and your brand in the marketplace as these experts, as these connectors, and venues that know how to deliver training that has an impact. That people can walk away having learned more and being better able to apply it in their business when they go back to the office. So, what would you say are the frustrations with your team, or skills that you'd love to help them get stronger at? So reflect for a moment. What are your frustrations with your team, or what skills would you love to help them get stronger at? So again, just take a moment to write that down. And if anybody wants to share, that would be great. Denise, I like what you drew, a heart and a dollar sign. So, okay, concentration is coming up there as one. Babette, good one, very good one. I think that's definitely a skill that that needs to be worked on. And my word for this year is actually consistency, and making sure that I'm more consistent at doing certain things. So that comes in there. So Carla, thinking more like a seller and less like an order taker. Absolutely. An order maker, I call it, right? That they're order makers rather than order takers. And there's too many order takers in this industry for sure. I will touch on that. Time management, and that could come in there with focus also. Absolutely, Denise. So direct other frustrations that I hear from other directors also is, let's say in the qualification process and in the sales meeting when you're asking your questions and you're hearing, I don't know, she won't call back, she won't call me back, I can't get a conversation with the client, or she didn't tell me. And some of this comes from the conversation techniques that the team have worked on, or what they feel are the relevant ways to try and have that conversation if they're having it, or by email. There's too many conversations happening by email in this industry, and I'm sure a lot of you would agree with that. The clients, the buyers are overwhelmed with emails, and it's no longer effective as a way for developing a relationship with a client, even though a lot of the teams think that that's the best way. But at the end of the day, it's about the client and what's important to them, because they don't care about your business. They care about your problems. And what we want to do is make sure that the team are skilled and confident enough to be able to uncover these. Because it's not about how your team want to sell, it's about how the client wants to buy. And that's a critical point, and that's where a lot of my work is, in really carving out a team who are able to think like a customer, who are able to be more relevant and really position themselves as that partner as opposed to being a supplier. And a lot of these, or a lot of order takers, you know, that definitely comes from being viewed as a supplier. But a lot of the time, even our sales tools, what's written on our website, what's written in the proposal, is indirectly positioning the team as a supplier and not as a partner. And when we're seen as a supplier by our potential customers, the conversation tends to be all about rate. But thinking like a customer, that's what gives you the edge. And I see customers or clients in hotels and venues spending thousands and thousands on what's the next big thing that's going to give us the edge. And this is it. It's taking that time to really think like your customer. So a lot of my insights come from my days in hotel sales and Omni and IHG. But what really was the game changer for me was when I moved back to Ireland and I became the buyer. I went on the buyer side of the industry. And that helped me to see that even though I was really good in sales, and I opened the Omni San Francisco Hotel 3 months after 9/11, and I still managed to make budget. What I realized was when I went to the buyer's side that I had been trained to sell from the hotel's point of view, and the client thinks and buys in a very different way. So in my venue finding days, I received thousands of proposals, I heard thousands of pitches, and I could see and spot immediately why business was being lost, because I had to change so many of the proposals and the descriptions and everything before I could send that on to the client. And I got frustrated and I wanted to do something about it. And I started to write a book. And this was in late 2013. It did take me 3 years to write the book, but it was very therapeutic. It got everything in my head out, and it helped me to see that I had a system for how the client buys. And so I want to walk you through some aspects of that today, but this is the foundation of so much of the work that I do and the insights that I've developed from working with this. It's a formula, it's a map to how the client buys, but most of the leads are lost in these 3 sections here, in these first 3 steps: how to stand out and sound different, how to build the power sales tools, and how to write proposals that win. And we did a session on proposals that win. Was it in March, I think, Kate, was it? Yeah. But these are the critical areas to really help your team to focus in and concentrate on to make sure that they're getting that right. And what I've realized is key is it's about getting a yes at each step of the client's decision-making process, because it does help the client or your team's salespeople to engage in a more proactive way with clients, and that's what's critical. So you had referred there to order takers, and I did a quick test last year, and I asked about 500 salespeople if the client was sitting right beside you when you were filling out their RFP, what questions would you ask them? And these were the kind of questions that came back. So what was the Wi-Fi strength that was needed? Confirmation of the details, you know, the setup and the spec and that, and is the city or country confirmed? But my point is, if everybody is asking these questions, how can you stand out? And you know, how can you be relevant to a client, and of course deserve to get questions answered and get that all important response? And I really truly believe that the better quality questions that are asked, the better quality answers that you get. So that leads us to the second point here, and let's look at some of the internal factors that that affect the sales team's productivity. And I'll bring you to this point here on creating the sales toolkit. So, you know, we could look at a number of different ways to analyze the business. And these are a few key questions that I try to answer for my business every year. How do your clients feel about you, your team, and your business? What is your team thinking or feeling about your business? I think that's a very important one, because that affects their ability to sell. What's your team thinking, feeling about their clients or their guests? And what are your suppliers or partners feeling or thinking about your business? Okay, these are questions that you can come back to. And of course, the quantitative side of it. What are the numbers? The number of sales leads, the conversion or the win rate, the individual rate for team members. I know not everybody looks at that, but I think it's very important. The main source of leads that are won, cost of a lead. I know sometimes it might be a little bit scary to look at that. And even the profitability of business, with reference to the amount of time that your team need to put into it, and of course the sales and marketing spend. And an important point to look at is, what was your most profitable piece of business last year? And what went well last year, what worked? And of course, we want to make sure that the team are focused on this most profitable business and profiling that type of client to go after more of that business. In my sales days, I worked for downtown San Francisco, IHG. We sold 5 hotels, and every October we had to do the sales and marketing plan. And literally, you know, I'm not quite ashamed to say it, but I will admit it, that we did a lot of copying and pasting, and the month of work that went into it ended up being filed, submitted, and left on the shelf to be taken out next year when we had to do it again. And this is that area of focus and concentration, and how often are we really bringing the team back to this? Because it's not what we do occasionally that matters, it's what we do consistently. That's what is going to get the team results. And I spoke with Chuck when I was preparing for the webinar, and I just asked around what would be the advice that you would share in leading teams, and it's providing clear direction. I see a lot of strategies changing depending on what a boss said or who asked for this and that, and are we really sheltering the team and providing that clear direction? Now that I am in the role that I'm in, I realize how much some of my directors really sheltered me from the busyness that can happen in, when management asks for this and owners look for this, and how much has that been reflected down on the sales team. Everybody understanding the goal and are clear on that. And of course, staying engaged with them throughout it, that we don't just switch and flip to the next thing, that we're consistent in our follow-up, so that they can see that this is important, that this is something that's just becoming part of what I'm doing and will be consistently followed up on. This is something that really works for my business, and I see a lot of my clients starting to do that, and it's just a great one-pager to have there on the wall, again, to just bring you back and help us to really focus in on that. What is this one thing? What is this one area that's really going to help us to move that needle? And these are some of the worksheets really that I use for my business, and again is really helping to provide clear direction for some of my clients also. So the revenue goal and dividing it down Q2, Q3, Q4. But then what are the actions? What are the activities down here for each of those months that's going to generate that kind of revenue? And I even boil this down further again to the weekly activities. Of course, making sure that they're realistic, because distractions are going to happen, but it's about how quickly your team can get back to their zone of focus. That's what's going to make the difference. And how, as directors, are we able to help them get back to that? And of course, yourself, in minding yourself and in your energy, how quickly are you able to get back to that? And I think that's a really critical role as directors. This is something that's working for my clients too, when I do usually at the beginning of the year how to plan for profitability. But it's the chunking down of your time. And, you know, you've mentioned there, somebody mentioned time management. Have they planned out their week, or are they reacting to the inbox? And a lot of people are reacting to that inbox. I know that they need to check it, but not every 20 minutes, and not have notifications ping, ping, ping when a new email is in. Because our brain, it takes longer to get back to something once we're distracted from that. So, you know, to chunk down time. So every Monday between 9 and 11 o'clock, I'm doing this. Tuesdays between 12 and between 10 and 12, I am working on my top target list. And I had a director, Sheila Foley. She was with me in the IHG days. She's now in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe. And she used to come out of the office. She's this blonde Texan lady, and she used to say, "It's 9:45, girls, and are you talking to your clients?" Because the golden time was that 9:30 to 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, reserved only for speaking to clients, for your prospecting, for client time, and not for internal meetings. And this is what my wall looks like to try and keep me focused. I have a color coded also. And, you know, making it visual. Do you have those visuals in the office? Prospecting, there's a bit of a myth out there that prospecting is about finding new business. Prospecting is really about research, because it's very important that the teams also discover who's not a good fit, and that is recorded, so that the next person doesn't have to go and do that again. So prospecting is really research, and having the right set of questions for the team aligned to what's really going to help them to bring in the business for a number of different areas, different markets perhaps. And how many of the teams have these top 10 lists, right? The top 10, I recommend a top 20 target list. And the top people, the top producers in our industry consistently work a top 20 list. And once they win one account off it, that they're adding on a new one. And this is the focus. This is what we keep coming back to. What are we doing today to make sure that we are building a relationship, opening up opportunities, getting conversations with these people, these profitable, that you've identified have profitable business for you. My friend Amy Infanta, she runs Plan B Consulting, and she has this prospecting tool. You know, it's a set of different questions to ask the different types of people that your team might be speaking with. And she has a team of 20 people that just uncover leads all day long. They prospect for hotels all day long. And this is a great sales funnel health check tool that I developed with Amy. And, you know, again, this is a real focus. You know, where's the lead source, and what's converted from that lead source, what's in the sales pipeline, and to really, you know, use this. And it's interesting to see how things can shift throughout the month. So what we want to do is make sure that we're operating, the team is operating more in this focus zone, because that's when revenue results can change dramatically. And we used to have internal meetings, a stand-up 8:30 meeting, just kind of a group huddle type thing, literally 10 minutes. So it was a short meeting to everybody to regroup, who we focused on today, who's in-house, but most importantly for prospecting, who we targeting, who's had conversations with who, how can we help each other out, and guarding that client time for revenue generating activities. The business on the book meetings, let the team run it. Let them take responsibility for it. Make it educational. You could even make it like a book club, perhaps. Of course, suggesting a very good book to start with that's written for these kind of meetings. And let the team digest and learn from each other can also be a very effective way. So what I like to do is really ensure that there is implementation, that implementation is included to any of the training activities that you do. For membership of IACC, you have a wonderful opportunity to have fantastic education from a number of different sources every 4 to 6 weeks or so, Kate, right? And I like to make sure that there's a little implementation plan around that. Definitely, when I work with clients, I make sure that that is happening. What are the internal documents? This is an internal brief document that was presented to me by a client, and this was the way that they briefed their team for a client that was coming in that had business worth 1 million. But this to me is not good enough, because this is very limited information on the client. There's what really, I suppose, alarms me is objectives here. So the objectives they're saying is the site inspection is a good opportunity for us to showcase our facilities and our amazing service. The objectives should be your team knowing and understanding what the objectives of the client's meeting is, their event, and making sure that everybody on your team, that your senior team, that the general manager who's going to meet them knows that and can have that kind of conversation. And Anthony here, he has his own individual development plan, and I can't tell you how proud he is that he has this. It's a very important part of how loyal he is to this company. And in the training that I developed with them, I'll tell you a little bit about the killer questions. But they meant an awful lot to Anthony, because it gave him a framework and a way to really conduct better conversations with clients. And he ultimately won business worth 220,000. Now, what I thought was interesting about Anthony was when he was telling me the story, he said, well, I spent an hour on the phone with the client. I know it shouldn't have taken that long. I said to him, Anthony, that's brilliant that the client would give you an hour of their time. And it turned out to be a very profitable hour, because he's won 3 pieces of business from the client to that value of 220,000. But I would encourage you to take a look at education that can help, it helps build loyalty for sure with the team, but how to be relevant, how to make them have a bigger impact on the client. And successful education, as I say, has an implementation plan. I'm not a big fan of the 2 to 4 hour turnaround times, because it doesn't always allow the team enough time to really get in touch with the client. I do encourage that they connect with the client and say, look, we received the RFP, we are working on it. That is critical, absolutely, but I don't always say that you have to have this short turnaround time, because it can lead to a big problem that I see in the industry of people just wanting to get the proposal done and sent and off my desk, and they're not putting enough time and energy into what is actually going to convert this lead, okay? And have we created too much noise in the sales environment with these kind of restrictions in place? I would hear frustrations. How do I get better qualified appointments at trade shows? I can't get a conversation with the client. She won't call me back. Okay. And this answer that you may or may not be hearing, I don't know. She didn't tell me. And that comes from when the team are seen as a commodity, because they're starting to sound the same as every other venue out there. And brands ultimately deliver value. And it's coming back to this being a partner as opposed to being seen as a supplier. How we going there, Kate? Is there anything popping up in the chat box? Can people let me know, is this making sense?
There's nothing in the chat box, Kira, at the minute.
Okay, I'll just take a breath for a minute. Is this working for you guys? John, I got a thumbs up from you. Okay. Carla, good? Okay. So as I said, it's about taking a look at what's most important to the client. And Dawn here, she's a fabulous story from her exhibiting at IMEX and in Barcelona at IBTM World. And I said to her, I said, look, you should really try and bring a bit of the personality of your property to these shows because it's so important to stand out. The client is hearing information for 3 days. And her property is on a race course in the UK. And so she decided to go dressed like she was going to the races. And she also took my advice, and she created a strategy around really preparing for the show. And I see a lot of people say, sign up, we're going to these shows, and then they might be disappointed with the results. And that can come from not having prepared enough. Dawn spent a full week just trying to carve out appointments. In addition to using the systems of these particular trade shows, she also worked it herself, and she connected with everybody on LinkedIn and started the relationship before she arrived at the show. So she had some of that already done. And she very much worked her top 20 list. So Carla, was it yourself? Somebody had said there about order takers, and this very much is an order taker mentality. And I feel very strongly that we have to stop this dates, rates, and space conversation. And we need to be able to carve out this position as a leader in the sales process. And I teach a conversation frame that really helps and gives the team structure to their conversations. And Antonio here, he is an event sales director, but this really gave him a feeling of being in control. And I see this as a big problem in our industry. When I mentor a lot of people, they open up to me and they almost whisper, Kira, I don't know what is a really interesting conversation to have with a planner after having asked these dates, rates, and space conversations. So it's about really ensuring that they have these all important conversation techniques. And of course, this big time paid off for Antonio. Within about 4 weeks, he converted a really nice piece of business worth 70,000. So I encourage teams to have these killer question checklist. I share a list of about 30 questions that really helps them to uncover the hot buttons and make the orders happen. And when you think about it, like so much of it's not trained how to do this in our everyday life or in college and in school, because there's two kinds of people: askers and knowers. And when we were 5, these are the cute questions. We ask questions. These are my boys, and they'd ask me questions like this: why does air float, Mammy? Have you got your toes on today? How does the clock know the time, right? And we were naturally curious. But when we were at school, we became knowers because you were expected to know the answers to the questions, and the teacher became the asker, right? And we were trained to sit, listen, and learn. And really what we want is needed is to watch and question and wonder. And are we really developing this? Are we trying to bring this back into our team? Because that's what they need to really win and deliver. And, you know, all major breakthroughs came from asking questions. Is that really so? Does it have to be that way? What if? And this is the danger that happens. You know, you inherit this a lot of the time. It's the way we were trained to think after we gave up on our creativity. You know, we know how it works. We know what our customers want. Or stop asking those silly questions. And some of the teams, you know, definitely when I get to know them and they open up to me, they are afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to really carve out and take control of the conversation. And we can never assume that what was important to a repeat client last year is important to them this year, and that their world hasn't changed. And I see that a lot of repeat clients are just kind of taken for granted. Are your team very conscious of what their brand is? You know, their brand, them as a brand, you are the brand. And this is a mindset shift. I just did a workshop on this virtually today with a team in Dubai. And, you know, what are they? What are they in this industry? What do they want to be known as? And what do they want their clients saying about them? And I think it really, really struck a chord and helped them to really do what they need to do to change. You know, every 5-year-old, they ask about 65 questions a day. An adult asks 5. And I'd already shared this story with you about Anthony. But strategy, it gives us direction, but the tools is what is going to help us to get there quicker. And the sales tools will distinguish your venue, because that's what a planner uses to help them make a decision. And salespeople will say to me, Kira, I lost the business because of rate. Whereas when I speak to planners and buyers, they would say to me, the only reason that we will make a decision solely based on rate is if the sales team haven't done a good enough job in distinguishing their venue over the competitors. If they all seem the same, then yes, of course, they're going to make a decision based on rate. Why would they pay any more? And these are a lot of the tools that I help teams to really develop out and get right, because the planner is using them to help make a decision. So Bex here, Bex, you know, she was stuck in that rut of she had rush, rush, rush. She had to get the proposal done and send it out. And once she took that time and was given the luxury of that time from her directors and the teams, we did some work together, and she realized she was just stuck in that rut. Those are her exact words. I was stuck in a rut of just sending out proposals, get it done, send it off. And she remembered what she loved about her job, which was focusing on the client. I think a lot of people have forgotten what it is that they really love about the industry. So real quick, folks, really quick, okay? 3 must-dos in a proposal. Make it all about the client. Address their buying buttons. And it's not all about price. Most proposals that I receive, that I review, are literally just a quotation, and they're not personalized. A proposal must be personalized, put a bit of passion in there, and a little bit of the team's personality. This is the average type of proposal that I received in my venue finding days. It's still the same, because with my clients now, I review proposals all the time. And the first part of the proposal should be about the client, not about the venue. So please stop sending out proposals like this. Shirley now gets compliments on her proposals, okay? And Heather here, you know, Heather, when we started working together, she was frustrated because she was chasing the same client for 3 years, a corporate client, filling out the proposal every year and not winning the business. But she made 3 key changes. She changed her approach, she changed her conversation, and she won 75% of that client's business. So I used to think that I was in the sales training business. I'm not. I'm in the mindset belief business, and it's about changing mindsets and getting new results. and changing habits also. And habits and mindsets cannot be changed in one day or in one training session, because it's about getting the action. It's about them developing the confidence to try something new, and that they have your assurance that if they try something new, that that it's not going to go against them, right? And some of our more senior and seasoned salespeople might be thinking, what can you teach me? I've been doing this for years. And a lot of people will say, Kira, I just need to get in front of the client and then I'll persuade them. Well, clients don't want to be persuaded. And it's harder and harder, of course, to get in front of the client. And Bernadette here will admit, Kira, I've never spent that much time thinking like my client. And Bernadette, after changing a few things and having different kinds of conversations with clients, she won a very significant piece of business that filled her month of November. So she was thrilled with that. But it's about really helping the team. Are they the solution? And are they seeing themselves as the solution? Because then the revenue will follow. Now, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And are the team really, do they want, is there a culture of growth? Is there a culture of education and personal development in your organization? And I think this is an important one to ask and answer for yourself. Does your team help your customers to think? Because your customers are coming from a crazy world also. And, are your team that person that's going to help them to just breathe for a minute and really give them some time to sit and focus and think through the piece of business with them? Because a great pitch is not about doing all the talking and closing the deal. It's really about opening up the conversations. And how many of the team, there's a great TED talk by Simon Sinek on the power of why. And, we can be great at knowing what it is and how we do it, but why are we doing it? And why are our clients doing what they're doing? And are we speaking from the why? Growing people creates a growing company. And if the people aren't growing, it's a reflection on the leader. John Maxwell is a guy I've been learning a lot from myself over the last 2 years. So I'd made a promise that I'd make it practical, that I'd give you a different lens and some ideas. And I'd like to know, did I succeed? So take a moment and look back and reflect. What is your next step? Is there something that you would like today to take from today's session and implement? Is there something that resonated with you? Because when you commit here and share that, it's going to help you to make sure that you do it. But also, myself and Kate would love to know, what's your one thing? Is there something that you're going to take from today, from the last hour? Hopefully, the last hour of your life has not been wasted. And there's one thing that you're going to implement. So we're near the end there, Kate. Is there anything coming up in the chat box there?
So, yeah, Kiri says, think like my client.
Cool. Absolutely. That's a brilliant one. John says lots. Choosing one is hard. I like it. I like it. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want to share one thing?
Yeah, I'll see Bellen's come in. Relook at our standard proposals.
Brilliant. Absolutely. It's the most client-centric document that anybody, any company in this industry or any industry can create. Fantastic. So look, folks, there was a lot in there. If you want to spend some time, if you want to have a clarity call with me or a fast track strategy call, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll help you perhaps to walk away with the one thing that will make all of the difference. Next session is this one, Kate, right?
That's right.
So June 20th, understanding profitability that will win more business, and that's with Master Connections. So this is my contact information, folks. Feel free to connect me on LinkedIn or to reach out for that gap analysis or that fast track strategy call. Okay?
Kira, can I just come in there? Sue Bellin is asking about the writing proposals. We do have a recording of a session Kira ran earlier in the year. So if that's something you'd be interested in, please let me know, Sue, and I can get that across to you.
Okay. Cool. Great. Thank you very much, folks. If anybody has any questions, feel free to answer them. We are on the hour, so we wanted to keep it prompt, but feel free to connect with me. Okay, folks?